Hello, my name is Anthony Delfranco.
And I'm Benson Magpente, and our topic for mathematics seminar is sports statistics. So the definition of statistics is the practice of collecting and analyzing numerical data in large quantities, especially for the purpose of inferring proportions in a whole. So basically, this definition is saying that as a statistician, a person that works with stats and stuff like that, we collect data and analyze it and give you feedback based on what we collected. And if we take data, for example, perhaps a student wants to find out how well they did in a course this semester. And a statistician will ask, well, how well did you want to know how well you did in the class. So give me feedback based on how your participation was, your assignments, what did you get the grade, what is the grade on it, and your test scores. And we'll give you feedback based on the data we collected. And it'll not only benefit us doing our job, it'll benefit you as well. So that's what basically statistics is. We're just collecting data and analyzing it and giving you feedback. So the first sport we did based on statistics is baseball. So Anthony will go ahead and give you a little bit about that. So
Thank you, Benson. So like you said, the first sport that we will be talking about today is baseball. Now, statistics are used a lot in the world of baseball. One of the main ones that are used is called a batting average. Now, batting average is basically how well your player will do when he gets up at the plate and swings at the ball. So now it could be between .300, which is generally considered all-star level or very good, or it could be at .100 or below, which would be considered as not good or terrible. And the second sport that we will be talking about today is football. Now, statistics is used a lot in football as well, especially in a fantasy football league, say on the ESPN website. So here's an example. For say Cam Newton, quarterback on the Panthers, right? He does really good on the game, last week's game. If he did really good. Now, if you get 20, if he does good, he gets 20 points, which is generally considered good. Yeah,
that's
good 20, 25.
So what are those points exactly? Is that like an average or so? So explain the points.
Exactly. So those points are considered. They are determined by how good the person plays in the previous games. So what I was going to say Cam Newton got injured or he got hurt during the game and he didn't really play that well. Those points will diminish to maybe like 10 or 15. But if he does really good, or like before, it will go in the 20 range or 25. Say he got hurt and he's out from the game. He will earn 0 points because he is not playing in the game. So the third sport will be basketball that we will be talking about. I'm going to hand it over to Benson here.
How'd you do that?
I don't know. That was like magic.
Thanks, man.
No problem.
So basketball, per se, when we use statistics in basketball, for an example, one way statistics is used is a free throw percentage or a field goal percentage. Those two both relate to scoring. A free throw percentage is when a player gets fouled or so, like a penalty. They have an opportunity to score the ball freely at the free throw line. And based on the amount of attempts taken and how many made, you get a percentage based on that. So let's just say a player shoots 10 shots and makes 6 of them, then his percentage would be 60%. Now, for field goal percentage, it goes the same way, but there's two types of field goal percentages, the 2-point and the 3-point line. Basically, the amount of points based on your field goal and stuff like that. So that's a lot of statistics stuff. So yeah, that's basketball statistics. Here are some examples. This would be a chart of basketball statistics. This would be baseball and football. So if you want to explain it.
Yeah, I'll go into depth. Earlier we talked about how batting averages work in baseball. As you can see in the top right graph here, it talks about how certain teams' batting averages as a whole. So it's every individual player's batting average, so just combined into one. So SMSU has a team BA of 1. That is really bad. Like, that is considered terrible. You go to a team
BA
like,
meaning averages, right?
yes, BA means batting average. If you go to something like this team over here, who has a 223 as a team batting average, that would be considered as good, maybe even very good in some cases. And
How many players are on a baseball team? About like 12, right? So
around like 12,
so
13.
it's pretty good if they're averaging that much as a
Exactly.
So this particular chart right here, this talks about like when Anthony said fantasy sports from like football and basketball and stuff like that.
And baseball.
Yeah. So with the over here in this top left corner, it's just explaining how 32 million people are into fantasy sports and participate in it. And since the year 2007, that's a 60% increase because technology is always advancing and stuff like that. So that's very good. On the right side here, in the top right corner, all the way this red chart, if you can't really see that, but those are the top websites to be used for fantasy sports. Particularly, I mean, these 3 sports are very, very high in fantasy teams because basketball, football, and baseball. I mean, people always check those stats and stuff like that. And as you go down here right in the middle, this chart says that advertisements based on people using these websites, because there'll be a lot of people there, companies will pay for the advertisements to be posted, and they'll see it. And that just shows you a bit of numbers and how much money is being made based on those advertisements. Down here, if you go a little bit more, this is just on average people that participate in fantasy leagues, which is, you know, they have prize money, small tournaments, mini pools of money, right? And the better your team is, the more you win back, like based on your bets and stuff. And on average, it's about $60,000 to about $100,000 per year, like a single person can probably make. It's just a big number. And on the bottom here, it's just how well, you know, fantasy sports can affect the workplace. It doesn't really as much affect the workplace as much, but that's always a good thing. And down here, if you go a little bit left, this is just fantasy sports players and sports fans based on the food they consume, based on either watching the game through their phone and watching the stats, or personally watching the game, just going to the game itself. So Anthony will explain this chart right here, which is...
Exactly. I just want to bring up that the total sports industry impact per year is $4.5 billion. Now that's a big number. When you think about it, you gotta think of the amount of statistics that are used in fantasy football alone. And now most people aren't, there are people who are doing it with no money. But like Benson said, there is a money aspect where they are betting money on certain games. Say, it could be as small as like, oh, I got $30 that the Panthers will beat the Jets, right? Say they win. You just won $30. Now, you could just see with how technology is increasing nowadays, that is becoming more and more common in this world. All right, this would be considered the end of our presentation. We hope you enjoyed.
And yeah, so this is basically, there's always statistics everywhere, no matter where you go. Always data, always being collected.
Data is all around us.
Yeah. So
used in all different kinds of ways.
So I hope you like our presentation. And no, it wasn't that much, but thank you very much. So
before
chili.
and this number is it's high because the amount of statistics that go into God damn. I had an idea again, and I stare around and I see you fucking disappear. And then the second sport that we did today was basketball. Come on.